This week, need a new career? This is where the jobs are. The new smart city in the desert, and the robots that can build more robots. What could possibly go wrong? Welcome to Click. It was exactly 1 year ago that I stood on this beach, looked into that camera and said some pretty improbable sounding things. First of all, Click had been on air for 20 years. Secondly, the world was going into lockdown. And thirdly, because of that, we didn't know whether we were going to be able to continue making the programme. And then, of course, the next week we just forgot to stop. And now, 12 months on, the vaccines are offering us a way out, and that is thanks to science and technology. And also, I'm still pretty much in one piece as a human being, and that is thanks in part to the person who I am so glad can join me on the beach today. Hiya.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've tried my best. We spent a lot of time on Zoom.
Yeah, we have.
Not today. It's great to be here in real life, and isn't this absolutely beautiful?
Yeah.
Every bit of normality feels so special right now, but as we edge towards the lives we once knew, work could have changed forever. Many businesses have closed, people have lost jobs, and for some, this may just be a time to change career.
But some industries are thriving and hiring. Home delivery outfits, streaming entertainment and video games. And Mark Chislak has been spending some time with the UK games developers who are part of this growing industry.
Young or old, hardcore or casual, the pandemic has seen an explosion in the amount of people playing games. The size of the UK market has led to increased investment and growth for lots of video games development studios. The brains behind the Football Manager series, Sports Interactive, is based here in East London's Olympic Park.
As a studio, we've been going for just under 30 years. Originally started in two kids' bedrooms in Shropshire. Since then, we've grown very organically over the years. To a team of 35, then to a team of 100, then to 150, and in the last year we've grown to 200. So far as a studio, we've sold 33 million games around the world, mainly football management titles.
This is Sumo Digital Studio in Sheffield. They most recently launched Sackboy's A Big Adventure for the PS5 and are working on medieval multiplayer heist game Hood, slated for release later this year.
We make video games for all consoles and mobile. We have many studios in the UK, from Newcastle in the north down to Brighton in the south. In the last 2 years, of which the pandemic formed 50% of that, we've added another 5 studios to Sumo Digital. The group's headcount's grown 36% in 2020, so it's been a year of growth.
These are both games companies producing blockbuster titles who've experienced recent expansion.
During the pandemic, obviously it's been really hard for everyone. We've been very lucky in that our revenue hasn't stopped as it has for some companies. But making games is hard, and making games when you're distributed around the world is even harder. And we were determined to still release games last year, so we actually ended up going on a bit of a hiring drive last year. We've accelerated our growth plans, so the growth we were expecting in the next 3 years we've done in 1, and went up from 150 people to 200 in the last year.
Sports Interactive's growth means the company is moving to new, bigger offices just around the corner from its existing base. Games are already the most successful entertainment medium in the world, and the pandemic has resulted in huge numbers turning to them as a means of entertainment or connection with friends and family. This has led to massive financial success. Last year, the UK games market generated £7 billion, up nearly 30% on the year before. But is this growth sustainable post-pandemic?
Being realistic, I don't think that that growth rate is going to continue, but I also don't think it's going to taper off completely. I think a lot of people have discovered games in the last year that are going to carry on being gamers forever.
A short distance from the Olympic Park on Brick Lane, you find a company making different kinds of games. It's not just the blockbuster studios that have been experiencing growth. The indie development sector is expanding too.
So we've been around for about 3 years now, and we make games for teenage girls. So these days 84% of teenage girls play video games. It's actually more popular of a hobby than shopping.
Love Shark has developed a mobile title called Mochi. Follow the action on screen to achieve a better score, as demonstrated by the game's developer Rosa here. My own attempt to play is perhaps the strongest evidence I'll ever need that a stint on Strictly is not for me.
During COVID, gaming has seen a huge boom, and that's meant that more and more investors want to invest in the space. We've been able to, build more games, develop faster, and also expand our team. So we've doubled the size of our team in the last year.
So games companies, big and small, are crewing up as a result of market growth and investment. As the jobs market is left reeling from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, could a career in video games beckon for many? But are people about to enter the world of work, or those thinking about a change in career, equipped with the skills necessary to work in video games?
The unfortunate reality is that there is a skills gap in the UK, which is going to be difficult to fill, particularly in the areas of programming. But it's not just programming; there are other roles as well. There are lots of jobs that people could retrain to be looking to do. Becoming a programmer is something that I would encourage anyone at school and any parent that's watching this as well to encourage their children to get into.
As big as the video games industry is, can it really have a significant impact on the UK jobs market?
Obviously, the game sector is a relatively small portion of overall jobs, but if you support jobs across a number of sectors, obviously that builds up to a bigger number, and I think it's legitimate to have a strategy that focuses on specific industries.
A source of entertainment and employment, video games are a truly successful 21st century combination of art, commerce and technology.
That was Mark. And keeping on the theme of gaming, last week was the London Game Festival. And there was a real focus on gaming to encourage young people to think more about environmental issues. Christina Criddle found out more.
At this time, the forward entry door is closed.
Are you getting excited to be back on a plane or wander around a different city? But have you thought about the environmental cost? The Now Play This festival wants to put climate change back on the agenda. Now normally it's here at Somerset House, and thousands of people would come here to play video games in person. But of course this year, it's all online. So what was the thinking behind the festival this year?
So a huge part of picking the games for the festival is to make sure that things were accessible. All of the games that we've picked are available to play online. The vast majority are available to play for free.
Some of the games you can play at home include exploring a deserted Venice in the year 2089, and Among Ripples, which lets you grow fish in a lake.
So this is a game where you have to create a lake and then maintain the ecosystem around the lake. So you're responsible for making sure it survives. So let's see how I do. So I've been playing it for a little bit now, and my fish are doing quite well, they're growing. And on the surface, it seems like a really fun, colourful way to explore ecosystems and how they work.
Okay, go outside. Are you there? Yes, I'm outside. And if you're sick of staying inside, Repurposed by British developers Amy Strike and Tom Williams aims to get you outdoors on an adventure aided by your phone.
You notice something floating in the air above you. What is it?
You get instructions which help you interact with objects that you spot around you.
I can't actually see anything in the air above me. Oh, there are some seagulls over there. So obviously we're doing this in London, and one of the main things is litter here to find. But I can imagine this could be really fun to play with some children in the countryside, and you just get back to nature, or even discover things in the urban environment too.
Games and play can be a really interesting way of exploring some really serious issues because they're low stakes and they allow you to explore different solutions and the different ways that you look at things without too much weight, so that you can kind of pick it up, have a play, try some things out, especially with sort of potentially like role-play games and so on. You can actually think about some really large issues like how governments might deal with situations.
And that's exactly what Climate Interactive has done, placing you in an online simulation of the UN Paris Climate Change Agreement. You play as a nation state making decisions on policy, and then you can see how your decisions play out.
The experience, the engaging experience that lets you step in the shoes of policymakers and be there, try to see the wider picture of what it really takes to meet the goal of Paris Agreement, that's really enriching.
Do you think that video games can actually make people change their behaviours in relation to climate change?
We did a study, and the study showed that people who take part in this game are likely to take more actions, are encouraged to take more actions after they participate as negotiators.
There's a lot on our minds at the moment, but as the world opens up and things start to get back to normal, can video games encourage us to take more care of the planet?
Hey, Chris here with the big tech stories that caught our eye this week. The UK government was challenged over ministers' use of WhatsApp and Signal text messages that can disappear after a set time. Campaigners are worried about a lack of transparency. And it was the week when wine experts discovered whether sending a bottle of claret into space for a year made any difference to the taste.
They were both beautiful. The one that had remained on Earth was a little younger than the one that had been into space.
Google Maps is to offer drivers more eco-friendly routes, estimated to produce less carbon. It will take into account things like traffic, the gradient of the roads, and number of traffic lights. It's also adding indoor augmented reality walking directions to help guide users when inside some shopping malls and airports. And talking of walking, Intel's engineers have developed a backpack that can help blind and visually impaired people navigate while out and about. The open source and non-profit project features a voice-controlled backpack that houses a stereoscopic camera and GPS to track objects in real time. It then talks to the wearer, describing their surroundings. And finally, car maker Volkswagen changed its name to Volkswagen to highlight its clean electric car after that whole diesel emissions scandal. The company posted some graphics and changed the name on its American Twitter profile. But the German company eventually admitted it was just a hilarious April Fool's joke, which it had posted early in March, famously the wrong month for April Fools. Now, a few years ago, we visited MIT in Boston, and one of the most memorable departments there was CSAIL, the Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Labs. It's where they make all the weird robots. But now I worry the department might have put itself out of a job. You see, one researcher there has built a machine that can build more machines. And LJ Rich has been finding out how it works.
You're witnessing the miracle of birth. A fully assembled drone, freshly printed by machine. Laser Factory works by cutting out slices of acrylic, printing circuitry with liquid silver, and picking components up and sticking them down, all in the right order, at the right time, and in the right place.
What it essentially is a unified design and fabrication pipeline for creating functional devices and robots.
So you can actually fly something off of the production line.
Exactly. So that was one of the main goals going into this project, that we wanted to be able to fabricate something that required no human intervention to actually get it off the ground.
It's amazing. And this is the device. It attaches to a commercial laser cutter and transforms it from a 2D machine to a 3D all-in-one assembler.
The detail in a project like this is mind-blowing. For example, in this toy drone, one of the sensors has become disconnected, just one, and now it doesn't work properly. It just bumps into a wall. I'm going to try and fix it. There are so many steps involved in building electronics, so how do you program a machine to do everything?
One thing we had to solve was to get this pick-and-place assembly to work. We had to build these path planning algorithms to make sure that the objects you're picking up and depositing don't collide with each other. And so there's just a lot of moving parts that you have to combine in order to get it off the ground and working.
The inspiration for this, like so many devices, comes from science fiction. In this case, it's the replicators from Star Trek, which can make everything from tea, Earl Grey, hot, to more complex engineering components.
These replicators that you see in Star Trek, where they have these really crazy machines that are essentially desktop machines that they use to create anything from teddy bears to drinks to foods to spacesuits. So this idea of having like a single compact desktop machine that can print anything you like, I think that's a very powerful idea.
Well, it's time for the moment of truth. Oh, it sort of works. It was back to the soldering iron for me.
And it's back to the MIT lab for Martin. He's hoping a future iteration of Laser Factory could eventually help augment other laser cutters, turning them one day into proud robot parents.
That was LJ. Now, something strange is happening in the US state of Nevada. Although, to be honest, we've seen plenty of strange things happen in Nevada over the years, haven't we? But now, the governor is considering plans to build a brand new smart city from the ground up with its own government, laws, taxes, and public services.
The plan's being spearheaded by Jeffrey Burns, a cryptocurrency millionaire who's bought a plot of barren land in the middle of the state. James Clayton has been finding out more.
Almost all of Nevada is this, mountains and desert. And that means ever since its existence, creative thinking has been needed to attract people here. Jeffrey Burns is the latest in that list. He wants to build a tech city here.
If it goes right, we have created a place that does not exist in the world, and this becomes the epicenter for it.
But not everyone loves the idea.
They would be separating, carving out land and going out on their own to create their own entire government, and we don't think that's appropriate.
Jeffrey Burns' goal is to build a self-governing tech city which he calls Painted Rock, and it will govern itself as its own county. Unshackled by local government oversight, he believes tech companies will be free to innovate.
The problem with government is it's reactive. Politicians, civil servants, they're risk adverse. They don't want to take chances. No is a better answer than yes.
Burns has already spent $170 million buying a huge area of Story County, the proposed location of the new city.
This is the piece of land where, in theory, the dream is going to be built. And as you can see, it's a vast patch of land, bigger than the city of Reno.
I guess it's any company that thinks that there's a need to test out new ways of doing things and wanting to be part of developing the place to do that. You know, we're looking at potentially using flying taxis for transportation, not having cars in the city. In this city, when you go to the market, you would pick your stuff out, and then a drone would pick your stuff up and take it to your drone delivery spot in your home.
Burns made his money from cryptocurrencies, and his big idea is the power of the blockchain. The theory goes that cryptocurrencies removed the need for a bank, so maybe the blockchain could remove the need for some administrative bodies.
distributing, authenticating, and documenting. That's a lot of what cities do, right? They're documenting information, they're authenticating information. Well, a blockchain can do all of that more efficiently, cheaper, more transparently, and without influence.
And he's right. To a certain degree, blockchain does have its uses outside of cryptocurrency.
Blockchain today can be used for all sorts of kinds of activities, keeping track of property, you know, who owns digital or physical property, land registries, the transfer of land, collective voting, keeping track of and verifying supply chains, managing tax or welfare systems.
So that's the vision then, an innovative city where tech companies and ideas can be experimented, a city that says yes to things, a city that uses technology to remove bureaucracy and empower its citizens. And that vision has been embraced by the governor of Nevada, no less.
This proposal is an exciting, unprecedented concept that has the potential to position Nevada as a global center of advanced technology and innovation.
But before we get carried away, not everyone shares the governor's excitement. The project still has some major hurdles and many critics. Firstly, we were given a tour of the land and it's wild.
You need a buggy to get around here. And it's kind of illustrative of the fact that a lot of work still needs to be done here to create this vision of this city in the desert. At the moment, it doesn't have a road that you could even drive a normal car down.
Secondly, Burns is proposing to leave the county of Story, and guess what? Story County's CEO isn't best pleased.
So you're going to lose a third of the land of the county if this goes ahead?
The way it's being proposed currently, yes.
That's a pretty big loss of land for the county.
It is.
Austin Osborne believes Burns could do everything he wants to do in Story County, which has already attracted big tech companies. Tesla recently built a gigafactory here.
He wants to build something and he's got really some great dreams. And our response to him is, here is an application. Please apply and go through the normal governance process.
Burns' idea for the blockchain replacing some local authority functions, well, that has its critics too.
Blockchain can definitely be used to complement forms of governance. You know, blockchain won't replace all of the sort of messy, slow, bureaucratic and very necessary human processes that go into governance. It won't replace democracy.
In the 1930s, state leaders here in Nevada decided to legalize gambling to try and entice people to the state, and that led to the mushrooming of cities like Las Vegas and here in Reno.
There is clearly precedent in Nevada for trying new ideas out, and the way Burns describes this new city almost feels like he's describing an adult playground, like a casino town.
I think of it almost like a Disneyland, Willy Wonka. It's a place where creativity, everyone wants to be part of that.
But how that works in practice alongside democracy is still hard to envisage. And perhaps that's the biggest danger here. Sure, governments can be wieldy and slow, but can they really be replaced with technology? We won't have long to find out. Burns' city is going through the state legislature as I speak. By June, we'll almost certainly know whether these plans are to go ahead or whether they'll be left as a mirage in the desert.
And I'm afraid that's it for our 21st birthday show. Look at that.
Do we get the key to the door? What door? I don't know.
Not my front door, not just yet, but you can come in. Just give it a few months.
Thank you. If you want to keep up with the team throughout the week, you can find us on social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook or Twitter at BBC Click.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming to my place. It's been lovely.
Pleasure. Lovely to see you.
I'll see you in your box next week, shall I?
I'll see you then.
All right, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
You're going that way, are you?